I wanted to create this video because I wish I had a video like this, what I'm about to create, for the version of me when I had all these vices and self-sabotaging behaviors, which inevitably led me down a path of me losing everything of importance in my life. And I don't want you to make the same mistakes, and I wish I had a video to come back to, or at least watch, that made me understand self-sabotaging behaviors and why I kept going back to them, and what is a self-sabotaging behavior and how I can actually navigate it and actually give them up so I can live the life that I want to live. So that's why I wanted to create this video. Now, I do have a book here with a bunch of notes in it. There is 11 notes in total. And these notes are everything that I found out through my ups and downs on how to navigate and get rid of self-sabotaging behaviors. I'm going to call this video How I Stop Myself from Self-Sabotaging Behaviors 365 Days a Year. So if you do struggle with self-sabotaging behaviors and you're sitting there and you're thinking in your mind, you can't get rid of these vices out of your life and you keep going down these rabbit holes and you feel like there's no end to it, please watch to the end of the video. So let's start off with number one. What is self-sabotage? Well, self-sabotage is doing something that is causing destruction in your life. And a lot of people think self-sabotage has to be this big thing like drinking, drugs, women. Those are big things and they are labeled under self-sabotage, but also self-sabotage in itself can be as simple as saying that you want to go and train at the gym 5 days a week and you always break your promise. Saying you're going to wake up at a certain time every single day and you never do. Saying you're going to do something and you do the complete opposite, that is a self-sabotaging behavior. Now, in my opinion, they're just runoffs of the bigger catalyst and the bigger vice you always run to, and that's going to make sense later on. But we have to understand why we self-sabotage. Because in my opinion, there's only 3 reasons why you actually self-sabotage. And these are the 3 reasons. Your life gets boring, life's too comfortable, or you're unhappy with life. Now, knowing that those are the only 3 reasons as to why we self-sabotage in the first place, and this is going to make sense in a second, we have to understand what emotions we are feeling and why we always gravitate towards the self-sabotaging behaviors that are causing chaos in our life. Now, we have to identify the self-sabotaging behaviors in our lives right now, right? And now we understand the 3 reasons that actually cause self-sabotaging behaviors. Now we have to identify the actual vice or self-sabotaging behavior that's causing turmoil in your life. And for me, that was lust, that was women, that was pornography. And because I was consistently giving into this vice every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year, I didn't see it in the beginning, but it eventually led to my downfall, where I lost everything. And I have this saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And because I was constantly breaking this promise to myself, I'm going to quit. I'm going to stop talking to so many women. I'm going to stop sleeping with randoms. And every time I kept breaking my promise over and over and over, all it did was feed self-doubt in my mind. It made me lose confidence in myself. And every time I woke up and looked in the mirror, I knew I wasn't being the man that I knew I actually could be. And from that main self-sabotaging behavior in my life, right, which I could never give up at that time, it bled into every other area of my life. It bled into my relationships, it bled into my work, it bled into how I spent money, it bled in how I was a leader and showing up every day. And it bled into how I was operating on a day-to-day basis. And that's what I mean by you have to identify the catalyst that is causing the turmoil in your life. Because a lot of men have multiple self-sabotaging behaviors, but it usually derives from one that makes you do the others. And for me, that was lust. For you, it might be drinking. For you, it might be partying. For you, you might cheat on your partner. And because you do that one thing, you let loose on all the other things. And like I said, it bleeds into every other area of your life. And like my saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So now that you've identified that self-sabotaging behavior or the catalyst of what's causing the turmoil in your life, and I want you can pause the video here and have a think and grab a pen and paper and write it down, or write it down in your phone, but I want you to have that in your mind right now. That one thing that you cannot get rid of. Now, once you have that in your mind, we have to identify the emotions that actually trigger it. And this was a light bulb moment for me when I actually realized this. Is the reason for you lashing out and going towards that vice and self-sabotaging your life, is it coming from a place of frustration, loneliness, doubt, boredom? You've achieved all what you needed to achieve, or you thought you've achieved what you needed to achieve, so you just keep chasing more dopamine, the same highs, and then you feel horrible after and you're wondering why you cannot quit. There are multiple emotions that actually trigger that one vice that causes the catalyst or causes multiple self-sabotaging behaviors in your life. And once you identify the emotion, that's when you can actually start to understand and get it under control. And I'll dive into that in a second. But I really want you to sit and think right now. Now that you have the catalyst vice written down on a piece of paper on your phone or in your mind, I want you to think for a minute or two and think, when does that come up in my mind? When do I get triggered by it? What emotions am I feeling at the time that I actually want to give into that vice that causes the snowball effect for me to fall off? And once you actually have that emotion attached to it, and you know which emotion you exactly feel or the moments in time, this is the next step that I applied to my life that really helped me overcome reacting or taking action towards that self-sabotaging behavior, which is looking at your life from a third-person perspective. And instead of reacting, you start thinking. So let's say there's a situation, and I'm just going to relate it back to mine. Say if I'm at the gym and there's lots of women at the gym wearing really revealing clothes, as an example. I know for a fact my mind's going to have a trigger in that moment. Now, I can catch myself and think and look at myself from a third person perspective and tell myself to then go down the route of most resistance, which is say no to the self-sabotaging behavior. And then let's say I come home, I'm on Instagram, I'm on my phone, whatever it may be. I was always stuck in a crossroad after getting triggered, let's just say in the gym. And within that crossroad, I had two versions of myself, and I really want you to visualize this. I had the version that wanted to give into the self-sabotaging behavior, and then I had the version who wouldn't give into the self-sabotaging behavior. Now, once I unlocked in my mind, looking at my life and these situations through a third-person perspective, it made it a lot easier for me to navigate on what to do, because it stopped me from being in a reactive state to a logical state of mind. And this is how it looks in real time. So say if I get triggered by the thought in a place like the gym, like I said, and I go home and let's say, well, because I was addicted to pornography, just say I get the thought driving home to watch pornography. I catch that thought. But before, I was in a reactive state. So then I'll just go home and do the self-sabotaging behavior that I didn't want to do. But once I unlock that third person perspective, I can now actively make the choice and choose which side I want to go towards. Did I want to go towards the side that's going to lead down me feeling shame, regret, and hurt others around me? Or did I want to go down the side that makes me feel empowered, makes me feel in control, and makes me not feel shameful, and gives me more confidence? I obviously wanted to go down this path. And now that I looked at my life from a third person perspective, I didn't react. So I could actively make the right decision in the moment. Now you might be thinking, well, how do I exactly tap into that? Well, the first things first is, it's like training a muscle. You have to continuously do it for it to then become a habit in your mind, where you just naturally do it. But now that I've planted the seed in your mind, you are now aware that you can look at a situation from a third person perspective and make that decision. So next time you're in a crossroad, whether to go down the self-sabotaging behavior route or go down the route of the man who you want to become, you can choose this one every single time because you're now aware. And it's such an important thing to recognize that you actually have a decision. Instead of constantly thinking that you just need to cause or go down the route of self-sabotage. Now, in the day, or when you wake up in the morning, there are two versions of you. There's the version of you who always chooses the comfortable route, and there's the version of you who chooses the path of most resistance, the uncomfortable route. And what I found every morning, I was always choosing the comfortable route. And because I chose the uncomfortable route when I started my day, it always led towards me giving in to the things that are easy to say yes to, which is our self-sabotaging behaviors, our vices, because they're comfortable, they feel good. So you have to understand, every time you wake up in the morning, you have to choose the path of most resistance, because that's setting up your brain or priming your brain first thing in the morning for when you get put in a position to choose the hard thing. You will choose the hard thing every single day of the week. And that's what I wasn't doing, because I was always choosing the easy option. And as soon as I started choosing the hardest option every single day, that's when I was able to constantly catch myself with the thought of wanting to go down a self-sabotaging behavior or gravitating towards a vice, and pull myself out of it and choose the best option every single time. Now, once I understood all this about the third person perspective, about what is self-sabotage, what emotions was I feeling in the time, in that moment, that caused my brain to trigger to want to go and do that vice, even though I didn't want to do it and still did it anyways. I created a morning routine that forced me to be uncomfortable. And in this morning routine, there were 3 pillars that I had to make sure I ticked off every single morning when I woke up. And I had to reflect, and I had to be in a conscious state of mind, and I had to do something uncomfortable before I did anything else. And that's where my morning routine sort of started. And what that looks like and how you can apply it is I wake up in the morning, and the first thing I do is I drink 600 mils of water, then I go into the shower, and then I have a cold shower for 2 minutes. And the amount of times over the years that I did not want to do the cold shower and I just stood there for minutes and minutes and minutes, it really made me understand how the brain operates and how it actually tries to always push you through pushes you through the comfortable route every single time. And it's just a default setting we have in our human brains, because realistically, our brains are wired to do 2 things, which is reproduce and survive. That's it. So doing something uncomfortable is very foreign to our minds and bodies. So we have to train our minds every single day to choose the path of most resistance, to build up that mental resilience, to say no in the moment of wanting to do the comfortable thing, which is the vice. Now, an epiphany I had whilst I was doing these cold showers, and I'm still doing them to this day, was I caught myself in real time, or caught my mind in real time thinking, and actually it happened the other day as well, but I caught my mind in real time trying to persuade me to not do it and making every excuse not to do it. And as I stood there, and I was like, what is going on with my mind? The longer I stayed in that position of not taking action and doing something about the situation, the harder it became. And it was funny that I became aware of this, because it made me reflect of back in the day when I had all the self-sabotaging behaviors, was I was just never taking action to do anything about them. And I kept going down the comfortable route. And the longer you stay in that position and giving in to these temptations, the harder it is to pull yourself out. It's not impossible, but it definitely becomes harder. So if you're listening to this right now, I really want you to take action today, because if you say tomorrow or Monday or the next month, it's just going to keep getting harder and harder and harder, and it's harder to pull yourself out. So the best option you can do is recognize that it is going to cause destruction in your life. It's not allowing you to become the best version of yourself, and put an end to it today. And start taking the path of most resistance, so you can set yourself up for success, for everything that you've built and are building for the future. Because take it from me, you don't think it's affecting you, or you do know it's affecting you, But if you keep diving down this rabbit hole, it will take everything away from you. Now, the next thing, and I feel like this is when I started to grasp the importance of fitness and how it correlated to your mind, but you have to build your body. Now, I'm not talking about getting a 1% physique or standing on a bodybuilding stage, but you have to make fitness as part of your routine every single day. Because I'm a Christian man, and there's a biblical verse in the Bible, and it says, break your flesh. And what that verse basically means is you need to put your body in a state of being uncomfortable because it yearns for comfortable things in your life. And 9 times out of 10, those comfortable things are the self-sabotaging behaviors that is making you feel the way you feel right now. So by building your body and doing an uncomfortable thing every single day, you are building that mental resilience to say no to the self-sabotaging behaviors and vices. And through building your body and changing your body, you build the confidence in yourself and you start to become proud of the man you're becoming. Because you can't look in the mirror and be fat and out of shape and respect yourself. We're just not biologically hardwired that way. And if you look at yourself right now in the mirror and you're not happy with how you look, that's just an added layer to the foundation to why you keep giving into self-sabotaging behaviors. And once I realized this, and I realized that me not taking care of myself and me not being in great shape was the added source or the added fuel for me to continuously giving into self-sabotaging behaviors, because every time I looked in the mirror, I felt guilt, shame, and that I wasn't living up to the man that I knew I could be. It just made me feel or think on a deeper level or a subconscious level, what's the point? So I might as well just give into the self-sabotaging behavior. And you probably haven't recognized that up until this moment. But definitely think about it, because every man that I talk to who always runs to vices, most of the time, they aren't in great shape. So if you aren't in great shape and you don't take your health seriously, I want you to take your health seriously, because that will be one of the biggest reasons to why you're able to actually stop the self-sabotaging behaviors and to build your mindset up. And the next thing is recognize your why. And this is probably the most important thing out of everything, because your why is the foundation. It's why you get up in the morning. It's why you started the business. It's why you do the things that you actually do every single day. And if you do know your why, that's amazing. What I want you to do right now is write it down on a piece of paper. But if you don't know your why, I want you to pause the video right now and really have a hard think. Why am I doing all the things that I'm doing? And I'm not talking surface level. I'm talking deep in your mind. Because the deeper you go and you find out your true why, it will help you overcome any vice that has its grips around you. And I'm going to explain exactly why that is. And I'm going to use an analogy that I like to use with this. So say you're caught in a crossroad, like I was talking about before, and you get the impulse to give into a self-sabotaging behavior. But you look at it from the third person perspective, like I told you before. And this is where your why ties in. Like I was saying before, you can choose the best version of yourself, or you can give yourself away to the self-sabotaging behavior and go down that route and not be the man that you want to be. But the sole thing that helped me choose the direction where I actually wanted to go, and it made it a lot easier, was the why. And this is the analogy I used in my mind. So the impulse happens. You feel like you have to give into the self-sabotaging behavior. You're caught in the crossroad. You're standing there. You're unsure of what to do. You look at the situation from a third person perspective. And the analogy I want you to use is you're in this black pit and there's no way out. You look up and then a rope gets thrown into the pit. And that rope is your why. That is the way out of the pit. That is the way to choose the man you want to become every single time. And I want you to really sit with that. Because your why is going to be the sole reason to why you stop these self-sabotaging behaviors. So it's very, very, very important that you understand what your why is. And like I was saying before, if you don't know your why, I want you to pause the video and I want you to write it down. And if you do know your why, I want you to pause the video and I want you to have a hard think. Is this my actual why, or am I just saying it? And if it is your actual why, I want you to keep it at the forefront of your mind every single day when you wake up. Because if you don't, it's going to be a lot easier for those vices to take control of your life. So I really want you to take the information that I've shared with you, because over the past 7 years, this is how I came up with the method I just shared with you. And I really want you to apply it every single day. Because like I was saying before, it's repetition. You have to continuously be conscious aware. You have to continuously choose the path of least resistance. I mean, the path of most resistance. And be consciously aware every single day. So you can remove yourself from the self-sabotaging behavior. And that's how I personally stop myself from self-sabotaging 365 days a year. Is I apply this exact system to my life every single day. And I'm going to give a black and white version on how you can actually apply it. I know I gave it before, but this is going to be a little bit more seamless, so you truly can grasp it. Because I don't want you just to click off the video and think, oh, I don't quite get it. So I really want you to understand it. So the system I use goes like this. There's a vice, or you get the impulse to do the self-sabotaging behavior that you're trying to quit. You notice the emotion behind it. And because of the morning routine you're doing, the daily work you're doing, always choosing the path of most resistance, you are now consciously aware of when you actually feel the emotion and get the impulse and you get triggered to do the self-sabotaging behavior. Then what you do from that point, when you've caught the thought, you look at your life, or look at that situation for a second and ask yourself, do I go down the route that I've always gone down that's going to lead me down destruction? Or do I go down the route that's going to make me the man that I need to be? Then once you have that crossroad in your mind, you remember your why. Then you picture that analogy I gave you. You're in the black hole. Your why is the rope that goes into the black hole. Then I want you to mentally picture yourself climbing out of the hole. And when you get out of the hole using the rope, which is your why, you are now set free from that self-sabotaging behavior. And if you can just apply that every time a self-sabotaging behavior comes up, it's going to be 1,000 times easier to overcome it in the moment. Now, like I said, to become so consciously aware that it just becomes a default, you do have to practice this every single day of your life. And that's how I stay free from my self-sabotaging behaviors and my vices, is because I apply that exact system that I just shared with you. And if you want to know how to apply this system that I just showed you specifically for your life, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram and I'll reply to you personally. Or if you want something more tailored towards you and your current vices, I'm going to leave a call link in the description, so feel free to book a call there and we can jump on and discuss exactly what you're currently going through and how to navigate that. And I really hope this video was of value to you and you got the clarity that you're looking for.